Welcome to Between Cloud and Tech podcast, where we explore cutting-edge technologies and their impact on various industries. Today we will focus on impact of AI on R&D processes in automotive industry. I'm excited to welcome Michael Seeker, Director of R&D Transformation at Continental, the global first-tier supplier to major European OEMs. Michael, could you please introduce yourself, your role and your responsibilities?
Thanks, Lukas, for having me. Well, having spent the past century almost in the field of product development, mainly as project manager, we took 2023 the initiative within one of our business areas to think about how can we transform the way we develop our products. And what we did is we started with a typically lean analyze. So if you go today to production, visit any shop floor, you know via the dashboards exactly what is your overall equipment efficiency, what is your first pass yield, what are your NCC costs. So you know very well where you create value and where waste is happening, and you can react immediately. If we talk about automotive products, it is not everything is standardized, but highly customized. That means you develop individual solutions for your customer. That means the process is the same, but the way you come to the finished product is always different. You have different 3D models you create, you have different manufacturing steps in between, you have different technologies in the material. And what we did is we analyzed every single step, starting from the investigation on the customer requirements into the first system and software architecture activities, creating out of that 2D drawings, 3D models, complementing that with design and process FMEA, the software code itself. So every single step which is necessary in the Automotive V model to complete a product, we went into it, we analyzed it according to its effort with our people doing that daily, and found out where do we generate value in that complete flow. So how much value is per work product created versus how much waste is created. And I mean, waste could be you need to switch in between tools. Waste could be you need to convert various file formats. Waste could be repetitive and highly manual tasks, such as reading hundreds of pages of legal and documents, or reading a lot of customer requirements, extracting them and importing them into an requirements engineering tool.
There are multiple things you have mentioned. First, that being first supplier, you have to somehow grasp complex environments at various OEMs, various automotive companies, which is super complex. How do you manage capturing this complexity in a structured way in form of managed services, or perhaps a series of managed services?
Correct. I mean, we achieve it via a standardized process. That's very important. So that's why I said the Automotive V model guides us along. The steps in between, you need to understand very well what is your customer specification. So what does your customer want? And that's one of the key elements, the baseline, the foundation of every product. So before you're not able to understand and translate the customer's wording into a virtual design, first of all, and then ultimately into a physical design, you cannot start. And that's where you need to focus on, where you have that creative part of developing, for example, a display solution. Looking into nowadays vehicles, I mean, you see head-up displays, you have panorama head-up displays at BMW, you have those big pillar-to-pillar displays, which we offer in our product portfolio. So that's like the new identity of the OEM, that is that in-car experience, in which we have a great experience around. And that's what you need to translate. And that's where you need to make sure that you translate exactly what the customer wants.
So you mentioned the shortest development time. Obviously, this time is a bit different between China and between European car manufacturers. So if you think about the impact of AI, do you think AI could positively impact this particular domain?
Yes, and I'm even convinced, and we have proven that already at Continental. So we won the Microsoft Intelligent Manufacturing Award 2025 with our AI-based requirements engineering solution. That means what we have done is that we have proven by using AI in the field of, with natural language processing in the field of document analysis, Think back about the repetitive tasks, the highly manual tasks. Those tasks we did use legal technical regulations, customer documents. I mean, up to a year ago, we had humans who read days or weeks documents, analyze them, and just transferred informations out of the documents manually into a requirements engineering tool. And I mean, that is not, I don't want to call that a boring work, but that is just time consuming. And what we did, we enabled those group of people, we call them requirements managers and requirements engineers. We pooled them and we discussed with them, how can we enable that your expertise, which is a huge and a very broad one, because you know a lot of customer specifications, you know a lot of requirements and legal technical regulations. We don't want to utilize that know-how in continuous reading of documents and translating them into a requirements engineering tool. We want AI to support the extraction out of PDF documents via natural language processing, the first classification of those items. I mean, is it a requirement we need to translate in code for the software team? Is it a requirement which is impacting the choose of the material for the body of the component? And that part of the first analyze, we proved to be significantly, and I really want to underline that, significantly faster with the help of AI. We did benchmarks, and we have seen that the human alone versus human with AI, because it's always like it's an assistant, it's not a replacement, but the human with help of AI, with that tool developed, it can be up to 8 times faster versus the human without AI.
This is amazing. This is really amazing outcome that you are actually measuring very precisely in form of different benchmarks. So if you trying to, let's say, provide the answer in the very short amount of time, what is also important is to keep the quality high. So how can you manage that the solution doesn't include so-called hallucinations?
I mean, first of all, the most important one is the statement and the circumstance we need to accept is that LLMs exhibit non-deterministic. I mean, LLMs are non-deterministic. Every input you ask is different to the one you asked before, and that is a huge challenge. It doesn't look like that we're going to change that soon, because that's just the origin of large language models. So what we do in order to keep the same quality and even increase the quality, because I mean, just keeping the same level is not really what we strive for as humans, isn't it? So we want to become better and better, is the fact that we combine the AI technology, speed, and an opportunity to automate highly manual tasks with the expertise we have in our humans and our employees. Because I mean, the expertise they have, you can translate them easily and as a learning bits and pieces into any large language model. But as I said, the human can approach the problems in a more deterministic way. And the human knows exactly what he is doing, while you need to make sure that you control your non-deterministic approach, coming with large language models into your product development, not ending up in risks in terms of quality for the customer, for the end consumers, and ultimately then back to us. So it is always like the handshake. We call it most of the times, it's an assistant. It's an assistant getting rid of highly manual and repetitive tasks in a very, very clever way, but keeping the responsibility for the product, for its reliability at our humans, at our employees, which know exactly what they do.
So human in the loop. I can imagine that in the future R&D processes, the engineers will be augmented or empowered by using different agents, different AI agents, supporting them throughout the process of specifically on R&D. So do you also see the future of so-called agentic AI, where those agents will not only support the engineers, but also create so-called automation around some specific tasks?
Yes, we see it coming. I mean, and we see it also in the sense of, we did a proof of concept, coming back to the topic of being non-deterministic. Agents, if you set them clever in a sequence, can reduce the variety of the results a little bit. because you can use your main system for the extraction process and the classification process, and then you can connect to it 1, 2, or n agents in order to verify the results with different other sources. And by that, we have seen that we slightly increased the similarity of the output we would have expected compared to before without an agentic workflow already. So yes, I see it, but it's still, I mean, it requires a smart approach. That's not like, I mean, they call it like the year of the agents. I'm not sure. I think that year was the year of the, I think that year is the year of the agents. I'm still not convinced that they will drastically change everything what we expect from them. So you need to, it requires human brain power to unlock the agent's efficiency in a way as expected. That's my perspective, to be very honest.
Thank you for this comment, because indeed there is a lot of promises coming from AI agents. So that's why we are very keen to listen to your specific use cases on that regard. Let's maybe spend some time on the challenges in the industry, because we see that European car manufacturer market is actually exploring a stagnation. Not only stagnation, but for some of the companies like Mercedes-Benz, we also see a loss in net profit, like 55.8% in the recent report from Mercedes-Benz. But this stagnation and this decline in the net profit is also visible in other companies like Volkswagen or Porsche, that is actually part of Volkswagen. So how do you see the role of Continental to, let's say, target the specific challenges and bring impact into the existing situation? What role do you think Continental will play?
Well, I think there are two sides. I think on the one hand side, that's the famous China speed. And on the other hand side, it is that China goes now for China. And that eliminates market share from the European and the German OEMs specifically. It's not, I don't think that this is mandatory only because of China's speed. I think that's China for China now. And that's, but of course not only, and I need to admit I'm not the expert in terms of how our German OEMs, for example, sell their car. But at least that's what I observe from my perspective, that the one side is independent of China's speed. The one side is just that Chinese OEM, they approach the way they develop their products in a different way, which I would not call mandatorily better. And even if the Germans would be as fast as China, I would really question if that could bring back the market share in that market. That's my personal opinion. I don't think so. That's not only a question of speed. What we need to question is more the way. I mean, talking and working with Chinese OEMs in the past, and also with the new OEMs coming out, they approach the tier one in a different way. That means they don't submit the requirements. They just say, I need a very simplified solution, which still covers the basic needs of my customer. That means I need to have a connected interior. That's not special to China. But the way they ask the tier ones to is more in the way that they say, you know exactly what you need to do. You know your requirements, you know the legal technical regulations in our market, Chinese crypto law, and so on. So I don't specify your product, you specify the product yourself. And by that, you start the exchange with them based on their expectation, having a very, very cheap cheap sales price for the product to be sold to the OEM. And by that, you cannot cover all the requirements, isn't it? I mean, the requirements are, behind each requirement is a price tag. Yes. And that's where the significant difference is. If you want to get a cheap product, if you want to have a cheap product, you get a cheap product. Mm-hmm. And if you compare that then to what we developed, and I mean, from my perspective, that's not good or bad. I mean, that's just a different approach in terms of how you specify the product and how much you expect from your product to behave and to rely onwards. So to conclude, the one is the China speed and the China for China, from my perspective, impacting it. And the other one is that they do not have that centuries of experience in requirements. They shift the responsibility to the tier one to define the requirements for the system, the software, and the hardware architecture. And by that, the tier one can impact a bit more the way towards a base product.
We can come back to the topic of your LLM being developed to specifically target the process of gathering technical requirements. Do you think this is the place where Continental could bring the biggest impact?
I mean, that's exactly where we develop our own solutions. And that's where we focus on a global market. And we focus on solutions for the region and in the region. That means for Europe, where we still talk about a lot of regulations and where we talk about a high product quality, we have the solutions to automate that complete requirements engineering and requirements analyze process. That means what took us before in between 3 and 6 months can be done now within days, maximum weeks. That means by this, we accelerate the product development for our customers in any region. Accelerating the product development for our customers means contributing to a shorter development of the complete vehicle. Shorter development of the complete vehicle means I can be faster into the market, and the amortization of my invest I put into the development of that vehicle can be amortized significantly faster. I can start with the offerings in terms of services, over-the-air functions, online remote updates, diagnosis functions, all those services which can generate revenue for the OEMs, they can just start, I said, months earlier. And if we continue that development, and if we continue also that open conversation with the OEMs we have already, I think that is just one element, and we can stack that up and can connect all the bits and pieces more seamlessly in order to be faster and faster and faster. It will always take, I mean, you develop a car. That's mechanical, isn't it? I mean, certain lead times are simply necessary, but what is that amount of certain? I mean, what is the minimum time you need to have? I think that's where we started, where the complete industry started already months ago, years ago, and we are on a good track to define that and reduce significantly the development cycles.
What is also important for AI training is the availability of data, availability of different kinds of data, structured, unstructured, real-time data coming from different sources in the, let's say, business domains, but also on the shop floor. How do you integrate your existing systems with our ERP or SAP systems with OT and IT data?
That's one of the key elements. I mean, we as a industry, and that's not even just automotive. I think we are still the slaves of our data. And sorry to be that clear. That means we need to transform ourselves into the master of the data. Because the data is like, and that's also not something new since August 2025. I mean, that's known. We generate every second significant amount of data. And we need to ensure that whether you follow a data lake or a data warehouse approach, it doesn't matter, but you need to become the master of the data which is generated in your ecosystem. And there I see one of the biggest threats at the moment and the biggest challenges, because if you know what you obviously know according to the data you generate, I think you can first of all increase productivity on a complete next level, and then secondly you can also open new business fields with that data, and that's for me, yeah. I mean, AI relies on data. The economy relies on data. It's highly important today, and it's something which will, if you don't control your data in the future, you will not be a reliable partner. And I also, to be honest, I don't expect that you will have a strong position in the market without being the master and not the slave of your data.
This is really great that you are confirming how data layer is important, how single point of truth in terms of data availability is important. However, maybe we can pause it for a bit and talk also about responsible AI. which is ability for AI tools to be self-explainable, and also ability for so-called traceability, so that you can trace back all the decisions made by AI tools to the source of data. How could you enable that capabilities?
Traceability is key, and that's why we also keep the human in, because if you just trace via large language models or also small language models, doesn't matter, you might lose the trace itself. And that's exactly where we say, okay, ultimately the control instance, the release instance remains the human in the loop, as you said it at the beginning, in that complete development cycle.
Looking at the future, what excites you the most? What are you most proud of in terms of your recent R&D initiatives?
I think we master a lot the transformation, and I mean everyone working in automotive knows that since centuries that industry is transforming a lot. And what we do is that we put the human into that center of the transformation, and we enable the human to be part of the transformation and to learn how it transforms. Mm-hmm. Taking back of that first example where I said a requirements engineer or requirements manager, by its definition, would have, I mean, in its private life, of course, would have used any large language model sequences first. But I mean, now we made them as part of the development of the solution as key user. So I think that what we should be proud of, and what we are already proud of, and we will be even prouder of, is our human asset and the engineers we have being capable to find the right applications and blind spots where AI makes sense and where AI remains a buzzword, because the quick wins just not there. I mean, it's every time you can provide the technology, and there are a lot of technology providers outside. But I think that's half of the story. You need the technology. The other half is you need to use your brain and apply the technology in the way where it utilizes the most inefficiencies, kills inefficiencies, enable efficiencies, and just speed, quality, and a seamless connection between human and any technology, may it be AI or whatever comes next.
We are almost out of time, so maybe let me ask you, what are your key takeaways? What would you like the audience to remember from our discussion today?
I'm always saying that any transformation is driven by a technology change, but executed by humans, and that will not change in the next years. I'm pretty sure not even in the next centuries. So we will have a lot of disruption. We will have a lot of new technologies that I'm curious about, any new upcoming. And most of them have impacted my life, the life of my colleagues, friends, and families in a very positive way. So I think we need to stay and we need to think positive of what's coming next. And we need to make sure that the transformation is reliable, and reliable can it be only if it's done by and with humans.
Thank you, Michael, for sharing your experiences. That was really great to, let's say, get a deeper dive into R&D processes and how AI impact the R&D transformation. We were very privileged to welcome you and to host you today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lucas. See you.
Thank you, Michael, for sharing your perspective with us. This is really great that we could get deeper into the AI and R&D processes, specifically how R&D processes and specifically agentic AI could positively impact the product design and existing processes in automotive industry. And with this, we'd like to end this episode of our podcast, Between Cloud and Tech, and would like to invite you for the next edition.